Okay, so I will be going RF Inquisitor for the Scourge League start, and basically I'll be leveling as how a Elemental Switch would level. You would go Orbit Storms with Stormblast Mine into Armageddon, Brand, and Cremation, and then let's go into the tree I would be following. So basically I'm just trying to get to Judgment, Divine Judgment, but first we will grab this Mastery and grab another 50 life. So this will be basically at the end of Act 1 or beginning of Act 2, around level 13 when we'll get that. And then we're just trying to get over to Divine Judgment, so it'll be a huge amount of damage. After that, we'll go for another Mastery. This will give us another 10% life node, and then Purity of Flesh will enable that. And then we'll go for Elemental Overload, so it'll be around level 28. So by the time we get to Armageddon Brand and Cremation setup, this will be a nice boost to damage. And after that, we'll go for more life. This will give us res, so it'll make gearing a little bit easier. And then Heart of Flame will give us a lot more damage. So basically a lot of damage and life on the tree, and eventually we'll grab some more life nodes. And we want to get to Barbarism. So this will be around level 43, so around Katava. The res will help with gearing again. And then we're basically just going for more life, potentially damage, not the best, but some more damage. And we're just looking for life nodes and resist nodes, and there aren't that many more damage nodes with this tree for Armageddon Brand Commission. It'd be at least a little bit of damage from the ignites that are being triggered, but this will be the general tree I'm looking to do. This won't be the most efficient way to level as the build because you're not getting the most damage possible later on, but eventually you will. And then if we want to switch to RF early, I don't think I will. I think I'll switch when I get to maps. But if you wanted to switch to RF early, you would first need to get Cruel Lab done. So we want to get Pious Path. This will give us a ton of regeneration to sustain RF. But we will also want to have had these nodes, the Prismatic Skin and this maximum fire res. So that's another +3 to max fire res. So if we're able to overcap, then that would help us out there. We will also need Soul of Akali to get the 5% damage over time reduction. And we will unspec from Elemental Overload to grab Acrimony and also this 10% Mastery. So a lot of these are huge for sustaining it. So it's like around 15% less damage over time to ourselves. And then we have capped over-res and with Purity of Fire and Vitality at whatever level you're at. So around level 60 is probably the earliest I would switch. But if you aren't able to sustain, you may need Hardy, and with that, maybe around level 61. So around Blood Aqueducts is probably the earliest I would switch, but I don't know if you can. I haven't done the numbers yet, so I don't know if you would be able to switch. So you're basically almost there if you're not there already, but I think it should probably be enough. And if not, you just have to look for more % life nodes on the tree like this to eventually get there, or more max res as well. So that's what I'm saying. I would switch till around after maps to be a little bit safer, because we won't have all the gear available. So there are items like Saffles or Res of Phoenix. I think Res of Phoenix is a lot better for early mapping and such, and it'll give us a higher max fire res because our gems and other gearing won't be available for us yet. So if I were to switch to RF, it would definitely be around level 68 or higher, just to grab a lot of these necessary nodes. I think the tree will eventually look like this. So we will have to unspec some nodes and just basically just go for life and max res. Some of these nodes aren't available for us because we definitely won't have a Glorious Vanity early league, so these nodes won't be useful, and these will probably be more useful when we get to red maps. So the tree will look something like this eventually as you gain more levels. And later on, when we get clusters, which are a huge source of damage, it'll look something like this. So we'll unspec those nodes down here, and we'll have moved some of them up there. So our tree for late game will look something like this. And as an alternative for leveling, maybe if you want a much smoother leveling with Armageddon Brand and Cremation, then you would still first travel to Divine Judgment, and then you would start grabbing these other nodes. So it's a different pathing, but these are more brand synergy nodes. So this would definitely help with going through the story a lot more efficiently than with going through as my tree. But later on, you will need to use around 20 or so regret orbs to get to my tree. So it's the trade-off there. So my leveling tree would be less efficient, but you would need less regret orbs. So you would need to just unspec Elemental Overload and unspec Heart of Flame and switch that to Breath of Flames if you were to switch to RF. So those are the main differences there between these two potential leveling trees, so Brandon leveling and leveling. This tree was made by Efriko, so this is a tree that he would look to level as RF Inquisitor with through the story, and he would probably stick with this tree even into white maps and just Armageddon brand and cremation his way through there. I think it's probably a much faster and safer way because then you're not worrying about your degen from RF. Eventually you would switch to an RF tree. He has his own, but originally he would have probably switched to something like this. But if you want to check out his stuff, then I would probably ask him on his channel. So if you check out twitch.tv/Efriko, if he is playing RF Inquisitor as League Start, then he would be leveling as this, and then he has his own tree, I believe, that he would switch this to, from this into that, whatever tree he would be looking to. And if all goes well, I will have my tree, and then maybe I can go over the gearing eventually, because all the gear in here is basically just potential gear, just basic ideas, nothing insane here. Just a bunch of different shields. Basically, you're looking for life, damage, and then eventually you'll go to Rise of the Phoenix and into Sappho's for late game. The cool synergy here is actually, if you can get a Doriani's Illusion, this will give you the 5% max res, but you can actually increase that to 6% if you were to get a Redeemer chest and to get the 25% increase effect of non-curse aura from your skills. So you'll get 6% max res between these two items, and the rest of the items are basically just potential items that you should probably look to get, basically life and damage and res, so very generic stuff, but this will be helpful in reminding you of like what kind of bases you might be looking for and what kind of like items you're looking for. And obviously these are placeholder items because you can't get a 162% all res belt. It'd be great, but no. So it's like just reminders of getting like life and frenzy charges, crafts, and stuff like that. So hopefully I'll have a much better POB later on once the character is put together during the league. But these are just basic items to just look towards, like as a base of that, like number to look for. So the POB will be posted in the description below with these leveling trees all saved. These will just be initial ones, and then you'll switch to this one for a later guide on how you would go for your tree. But these are all just guidelines, and if you think you need something, then you should probably, travel towards it and grab the nodes for it and respec as needed. So hopefully everyone has a good league start in Scourge.